Finally, some silence is broken from really any band. I guess there really are certain periods of the year that are release heavy and that just work for the numbers, and summer is not one of them. Either that or the bands just enjoy getting themselves a little break. But regardless, finally, after a few weeks or really months since anyone has put out anything truly notable, we've got another release from a band that I haven't featured on the channel yet, a smaller progressive metal group called Lizzard. They're a French group with only 3 members, but their sound is far more massive than most 3-person groups out there. They started as a more kind of groove-oriented, driving progressive metal band that had influences from Tool and Wheel and some of those bigger bands that are out there, but over time they've really honed in on their own sound, especially on their 2021 album Eroded, which I'm a big fan of. All in all, I haven't listened to them all that much. They're not a band that are on constant rotation for me, but I was very impressed by their first single coming out for their new album called Black Sheep that they released a few weeks ago. An absolutely driving tune, and there are quite a few parts that really bother me just because they sound a lot like something I've heard before, especially the chorus melody. If anyone can figure out what that might sound like, please let me know, but regardless, the melodies are infectious. The song builds really well. It's a very tight track with an excellent closing riff and climax to the song, and it has me excited for the new album and the single that they just released yesterday. The song is called Elevate, and I'm very excited for this next chapter with the band. I feel like a lot of bands are finding their stride this year. A lot of bands that haven't released in a while are finally putting out new music, so I have no doubts that these guys are going to be reaching new heights with this one. As always, we'll just have to see where this new chapter for the band takes us. So, this is Elevate by Lizzard. The Lost song built so well up to that climax. It was very well constructed, it didn't overdo any parts, so I'm curious if the song kind of stays in that controlled lane or if it's more explosive. We might already have our answer here. It's not like there was nothing there. Nothing that he didn't show. Wow. No, nobody can tell. Ooh. What great apart summer man's can play. Ow. Very melancholic. It has a sweetness to it, but it feels very emotionally charged. It's not entirely hopeful. Oh. Dude, I'm loving this groove here. There's a springiness to that little riff, just a little arpeggio. Oh, I have to say, through these singles, their vocals have improved a lot, at least for me, from the past. Oh, whew. Super unique for them. I always love having a balance between the singles. I'm actually glad this one was outwardly heavy. Oh, chord change. Man, this is super interesting. Wow, I'm impressed. They're showing a lot of control here, a lot of maturity in their songwriting. Are they gonna throw in a bit of a heavier outro again, or are we gonna kind of stay in this little... Ooh. Oh! Wow! This is a very realized song we have on our hands here. The song is very green for me. The only time it's really kind of come out of that color palette with my synesthesia is during that little chord change. Breathing space, perfect spot for a little pocket to just kind of sit back in. Man. Okay, you know what? Just for those who don't know, haven't heard the song, that faded straight into the first single, Black Sheep, so I'm assuming that's how they go in the album. That transition was like, the song's connected. So let's just listen to Black Sheep, why not? Why not just go for it? For those who haven't heard it, because this is an excellent song. I definitely like the progression from Elevate into this. It builds intensity slowly. I would assume whatever songs after this is even heavier than Black Sheep. That very kind of... And this is that little hook section that I feel like I've heard somewhere before in some way, but I can't recognize it fully. It might just be the style of it, feels kind of Karnivool-esque, but I love that little falsetto hook. The way it builds is kind of like an All It Takes in a way. The guitar tone is excellent so far through the singles. This is definitely shaping up to be their best album. I would certainly say this is the best I've heard from these guys so far. 2024 is that year, man. And this album comes out in September, for anyone wondering. So this is the first little taste at the riff that they bring back at the end of the song. But this kind of just stays within the same chord range. I like that they keep it simpler here. It feels like more of a transition from piece to piece. And then when they add more notes into that kind of scale downward at the end of the song, the impact is stronger. But it just gives that little familiarity with the time signature, which is nice. There's a dissonance too. So many layers with the guitars. You can't listen to this and tell me that you think there's 3 people in this band. It sounds like 5. How deep is that soundscape? And I will say, far better production than their past albums as well. There's that breathing space. Once again into that chorus, but there's an expansion in the chorus. There's a vastness to it. It brings itself out. We're still marching along. We're working our way into this album. It's It's just smart writing. Nothing is overdone, but very tasteful. See how it kind of changes itself a little bit. Drops itself down, getting nastier as it goes. It's a very simple riff, but extremely effective, especially for the song that it is. Bring in a few extra bass notes there. Vocals churning over. It's just excellent writing. I'll say it again. Two excellent songs. I just want to confirm real quick that these songs do actually transition into each other. Like, it sounded pretty seamless to me. Yeah, that's an amazing transition. Amazing transition. And you don't often see singles do that. You don't see them. It's almost like they wanted you to discover that as a listener, which is awesome. I love that they released them in that order. It's hard to say which song I like more as of now. I know I already put Black Sheep in my top 10 songs of the year so far. I had it at number 10. I threw that out on my Instagram a few days ago, if anyone wants to look those songs over. But I have to say, I think Elevate shows more mature songwriting overall. So I did give Elevate another listen, and honestly, out of the two songs, I think it is more enticing, and it is probably the best song I've heard from them so far. The song has a mix of a little bit of a hopefulness and a sweetness and some desolate, still nature to it, kind of just wallowing in your own self. It's a very personal feeling song, but that little bit of a sweetness makes it warmer and more embracing. I think the word that I'm really looking for is the song feels like it has an acceptance to it from the writing point of view. The writer, the storyteller, whoever it is that is the centerpiece of the story, they have an acceptance. And that's what makes me want to listen to it again. There are two bands that kind of pop into my mind on the second listen. The first one is a band called Freedom to Glide, which are much smaller, only a couple thousand monthly listeners on Spotify. Their albums are very centered on war and past experiences, battles, and they have a very kind of still melancholic feeling like this, where they kind of drone in their own space, in their own pockets, but there's a life and there's a vibrance to them, which makes me think a bit of this. And the second is a band called Airbag. I think the chorus in particular in this song really has a bit of an Airbag flavor to it, with the melodies being very simple but layered and just, they're straight to the point. They tell you exactly what they need to tell you without even paying attention to the words, just the emotions are there, and they're perfect for what they need to be. Though with that said, even with those maybe sensitive influences or just sounds in general, I would still say this is a very original song and extremely realized, from staying in its own unique sonic palette for the entire listen, really. It doesn't venture too far off on the extremes and the highs and the lows. That transitions all make sense, and as minimal as both singles have been, I think they have been great at telling exactly what they need to tell without being too overbearing. It just feels like they really are writing their own unique story, which is exactly what I wanted to see from these guys. The guitar playing is probably the standout of the track for me, although I do think these are, again, probably the best vocals we've heard from the band. I think the chord choices, and particularly just the key signature of the song, whatever key they chose to write this in, was perfect for the mood that they wanted. And probably the most telling part of the song, and my favorite part, is just that little bit of a bridge section around 2 minutes 50 seconds. Those slightly more uplifting chords that they brought in, just a little bit more of a lift up into the clouds, into the sky for a little bit. I think it's only about 10-15 seconds of that progression, but they go back into the vocals a little, into a slightly more emphatic chorus, although not being overly heavy. I think those chords on their own tell as much of the story as any of the vocals do. So just a beautifully realized song, as I was saying overall. As I was saying throughout as well, with my synesthesia, I think the colors are a big part of where I was feeling that kind of stillness, acceptance, melancholic mood. The song stayed in a very kind of green realm for me, kind of aquamarines at the highest points, up to limer, kind of sharper greens, but a warmth, a depth in the greens that I was soaking in. The colors colors that I was seeing, eyes closed, eyes open, all around me. Kind of similar to what you would see in the Ziz Bjork album cover up there with those layers. It was dark at points, but something about the green being such a natural color, natural feel, made it feel more organic and more warm, more touching, more welcoming, even if it's has that kind of meandering feeling. So I think the colors were a big part of that. And the only times it really changed flavors was when it had those sudden chord changes that, again, weren't too overbearing. They were just exactly what you need for the story. So excellent on both ends, excellent for a synesthetic experience, excellent listening experience, and I'm super excited for this album. I can't wait to see where Lizzard go from here. Let me know if this was your first time hearing them, if you liked the songs, if you already know the band, what are your favorites, which single do you prefer, and let me know if you're excited for this album. I know I am. Thank you, Lizzard. I'll see you guys next time.